Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 69.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards. In a few minutes, I'll bring on my guest and colleague, Dr. Craig Judd. Today, we're talking about open concept. This is a great question we got from one of our listeners. How do you transition into open concept? And although we'll answer that question among others that come up in the same topic, I think it's very important to actually ask the question, is this the right practice setup for you? And is switching to open concept really going to boost your practice? And I think you know our answer. But of course, you'll want to listen to the episode. And thank you so much for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic. Craig, welcome back to Life by Design for Chiropractors.
As always, it is a pleasure to be here.
Today we're talking about open concept. This question was brought up by a Life by Design listener, and we thought, hey, you're a Life by Design listener. You have a great question. Let's talk about it. And
makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the content for the podcast comes from. So guys, don't hesitate to send us ideas for topics, things you would like to have addressed. Great opportunity if you have a question to be able to get the question dealt with in a bigger way than just a short email answer. So feel free to dive in and send those to me, Jamie at lifebydesign.com or Kreshmir at lifebydesign.com. See, Kreshmir, I got your email address correct.
So it took you, what is it now, like on 2 years?
Yeah, about that. It was perfect timing. I didn't have to give them the old approved address since those don't work anymore.
Done.
All right. So here's where it came from. Somebody wanted to know, if they don't have an open concept office and they wanted to move to an open concept office, was that something that we recommended? What do we love about open concept? And, we put together some ideas and thoughts today about that. What's your commentary, just in general, first about open concept? You practice open concept. Just for yourself, what do you love about it? What did you see not liking about it?
Well, I love it just because of the vibe that it creates in the office. I tend to be like the most expressive version of myself in practice. Mm-hmm. I've always liked standing up and speaking in front of people, so there's an audience there. Those are the two things that I like the most about it.
Is there anything that, if there was a way to still have an open concept office and address, that you don't like?
No. I mean, the only thing that's ever come up and again, we'll talk about this more in the episode and I'll give my thoughts on it. But the only things that have ever come up is there's some people, it happens very infrequently, but it's a disqualifier. There's some people who do not want to be checked. So, I mean, this is potential like business. This is, somebody who now is not going to receive the best chiropractic care in the community by not coming into my office because they don't like the setup of the office. And there's also been people who, unless you address this issue, feel like there's no personal time for them with the doctor. Those aren't my problems, but I mean, I'm also running a business here, so I want to make sure that people coming in get the most amount of value they possibly can. And it's not like these issues come up very often. However, when they do come up, those are the two biggest issues that have come up in the past.
And to play devil's advocate, you have to flip it the other way. It's probably a qualifier in some instances where people don't like having the private room. So
totally,
it's just a matter of how many. I know for me, I've over the course of 15 years in practice, at least knowingly, I can't say who has not shown up because of that or if they knew that, but knowingly I did not start or accept one patient over 15 years because of the open room. Anybody who had a concern, we were able to address the concern, guide them into the process so it was comfortable for them, and, away we go. And I have a few of those patients right now that have brought that up, and you just slowly transition them, which we'll get into today. I think the point, and one of the big points I want to bring up before we dive right in, is this is not a tactic to make your office busier.
Yeah.
I think people see, this office sees 300 visits a week. They have an open concept. It must be because they had an open concept. It reminds me of Reggie saying, that he saw 2,000 visits a week in spite of his box on the wall. Now, I think that probably was not true, given that
we know the data.
Yeah, when he took the box off the wall, or when Ernie Landy took the box off the wall, the practice had a huge dip. So I don't know if that was the case, but that is the point, is a lot of things that are done in chiropractic
you're
practices.
Being kind.
Yeah, they're not necessarily what are driving those practices. So if you're thinking of switching to an open concept because you think it's a great practice builder, I think you need to remove that as the reason you're going to do it. There's lots of other great reasons to do it, and there's lots of great ways to do it. In reverse, there's amazing offices. I think of Mike's office and the Wellness Group in Ottawa, some of our other Life by Design offices. They have closed rooms, and there's other ones that have semi-open rooms or T-bar systems, or there's all kinds of variations of this. So I think step one, and maybe you can address this, is why do you want this?
Yeah, so this is a totally, this is just being self-aware. Like, is this you doing something, for you, or is this you doing something because you think this is going to benefit the people? Or like you said, is this like, there's this dream of growing up that if we just did everything like as the person on stage, right, who's seeing, 1,000 a week, because that was the magic number when we were looking to build our practices, and we had to do and talk and move like these guys, and if we didn't do like one thing, then we wouldn't get to where we were going. Of course, that's completely untrue. This has more to do with self-awareness than anything else. So, you have to really look inside yourself, and if this is something that you want to do because you think it's going to help you create more value and it just feels natural to you as a human being, then by all means, start breaking down the walls, do whatever you need to do. But if this is a tactic that you're looking to employ, like, it seems like we see this every time I'm on the podcast, but remember, the same conversation in principle that you have with your patients about, that drugs are just masking the symptoms. Well, this is the same shit, right? Like, don't mask the symptoms of the real problem. People come, 1,000-visit chiropractors are very authentic to themselves. That's one of the requirements to be able to get there. Doesn't matter whether it's in closed rooms or open rooms.
Yeah, and you can see where this feeling of needing to do this comes from. We do tell people success leaves clues. The point is figuring out which of the characteristics of that person or that office are the ones that are helping create success. And, I think we can make the case that it's not necessarily the open rooms as there's, an abundance of closed room practices that have successful practices. So the other, I think, consideration to have here is, how does it match up with your personality, right? Is this something that is going to suit you? That goes back to the concept of authenticity. There's some people that just wouldn't be themselves in a closed room practice, and there's some people who are not going to be themselves in an open room practice. Yeah, I can't disagree, right? There's some people who are more quiet, more, their personality suits. And even focus. Sometimes in an open room when there's a lot of moving parts and you can see everything, it's easy. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things that I struggle with sometimes. It's really easy to get distracted. Other people can grab your attention. They can take you away from, delivering the best care to the person on the table in that moment. Yeah. No, I think it's figuring out who you are. This is just a general starting point for anybody in practice, but who you are and what you're trying to create. And then from there, as an extension, you can start to figure out, am I a closed room practice? Am I a T-bar? Am I an open concept practice? And then from there, you can go ahead and go through the implementation. I know for many people, we'll talk about the pros and cons next, but they just think, oh, well, I'll have an open room. People aren't going to talk about their symptoms. It's going to be great. And of course, just like choosing it because you think it's going to be a practice builder, choosing it because you think people won't talk about symptoms, also a terrible reason. Yep. Yeah, again, the reason that people bring up symptoms is you, right? You're either, not to say that's even bad. Maybe you want the type of practice where you are talking about symptoms. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Mm-hmm. The purpose, again, guys, is not to have my practice or to have Jamie's practice or anyone else's practice. The point is to figure out what you want, what would make you happy, and then to go out and create that, whether that's being providing nothing but therapy or being a third paradigm chiropractor. You have to figure out where you fit along that spectrum. Right. So let's talk a bit about the pros and cons here, Great Show, and give people, a bit on both sides, and they can figure out what works best for them. Again, first step is assuming you figure out who you are, what your personality type is going to do best with, and you removed the desire to be open concept simply because you think it's a practice builder or people won't complain about their symptoms. None of that's true. Let's talk about the actual pros and the actual cons. So let's do the cons first. You know, you mentioned it could be a potential disqualifier. What other cons do you see with an open room system?
Well, I think we've mentioned most of them. I mean, it can be distracting. It can be a disqualifier. What are the other ones? I
lack privacy. Yeah, they can lack privacy. I think that's a big one, right? Is people who are private people, they see themselves, you know, in a room with other people, and they start to think, you know, oh, they're going to say things about my case, or they're going to talk about me in front of other people, and you know, especially when there's the relationship culturally with how people are used to being exposed to healthcare, right? Your physician's office, there's a room. At a massage therapist, there's a room. So everything is very much one-on-one in that sense. Now, again, I flip that and I think about, well, what about if somebody goes to a gym or they go and they train? You know, they're doing that with other people around. And I see what we do more aligned with that than I do with going in and, you know, having the private room and you know, breaking down your specific condition and getting a prescription for it. Now, there's time for that. We have private rooms to do conferences. We have private rooms to show the results review. So it's not as if we don't have private time. And going back to what you said, on day 2, after I make the agreement with everyone, as I check them out and hand them off to my team and my staff, one of my conversations as I go through their terms of acceptance is, if you have any questions along the way, make sure you ask me. And I'll either answer them while you're in your checkup, or if we don't have time or they require more time, we can do it at the end of the day via phone, or we can set up a special time to go over whatever it is we need to go over. So just getting clear with them early on that if they do need that extra privacy, it does exist.
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy.
So in terms of the pros, which I think there's many, obviously we practice in an open room, you practice in an open room. For you, what would you say the number 1 or 2 top reasons you love the open concept are?
It helps me create it. Like it provides me with energy, right? Like I like the momentum that it builds when you can see people coming in and you can start to hear, you know, conversations that your practice members are having with one another because they recognize one another. And it just builds a really loving and caring environment, which makes me happy, makes me pumped up. I get to provide better care. That creates the results that I want. That creates happier people, and we just have this great forward momentum.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I love the energy as well in the community. I love the ability to communicate to one person and have everybody else hear it.
Yep.
You know, as a communicator, and to leverage the strategy of communicating to the other person through the person you're working with at the time. You know, that way it's not, you know, as in the face of somebody who needs to hear some very important information. I can communicate to you through the person that I'm working with. And on the other side of it, I love the fact that people can't stay in the room and talk to me forever. It's not that I don't enjoy, you know, people when I'm in practice, but I have things to do. I have other people to see. I have a lot of other projects that need to be addressed, other review visits, checkups. You know, we run a busy practice. I can't imagine. Obviously, it's like anything. It would be a skill, and I'd have to ask Mike about this and how he does it, because I'm sure he has a pretty direct way of handling it, knowing Mike. But I think to myself, man, how would I manage if I was in a room? Because I do like to talk and I like to communicate, but I know if there's a person on the table next to me, I can just glide over to the next table. Even if I have to finish the conversation with the first person, I can move over and they get the idea that, oh, there's another person there. I need to keep on going. Whereas, oh man, I can't even imagine in a room. It might be deadly for me.
My favorite is always, and I know that you've experienced this, right? Because there's nonverbal cues on how to close a conversation. You change your body position, you start walking away, right? Your shoulders are no longer facing them, they're turned sideways. My favorite, and most people will get that hint, right? Most people will know that you have to go, and the conversation won't last very long. But my favorite people are always the ones who pay no attention to those clues, like none whatsoever, and they just continue to talk. Knowing Mike's probably very direct about it. He's pretty direct with us when he doesn't want to talk to us. He just doesn't. So I don't think that would be any different for him in practice.
Yeah, I can see it now. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll see you next week, and he's out of there.
Yeah, I'll send you an email.
Yes, I mean I do the backup. I moonwalk away and try and get to try and get to the door to the doctor's office. I think my move, now that I'm thinking about it, is my hand goes on the handle of our office door. That is my move. I'll take a couple steps back. I'll reach for the handle. I'll grab it. I'll still turn and speak to them, but I'm holding the handle and the door is cracked open a little bit. And that, if somebody is still chatting, that's the quickest way for me to slide away. So as soon as that lull comes, I can just dip in the door and close it. And we advise that as well with our clients. I'm not saying you shouldn't connect with people and deliver a great daily visit and deliver a great checkup. And the open room is wonderful for that, but you should also minimize and limit the conversation that goes on beyond the important things that you need to talk about on a day-to-day visit, whether it be your clinical parts or making the connection. That can be one of the challenges. Just through speaking about it, sounds like ratio is a challenge, whether you're in a closed room or an open room anyway, but obviously much easier in the open room. I love the flow. So our office is set up where everything runs very circularly. So you come in on one side, you check in on the same side, you grab a seat in the queue, you then come back behind the wall where the two tables are, you get checked, and after your correction, you go to the other side. So we position the garbage there, so they have to walk out the other side on purpose. They put it in the garbage, and that's on the same side that they would exit the office and speak to our staff as they check out, whether it be to update their next appointment schedule, make a payment, book a referral, book a workshop. So they actually enter one side, get checked, and flow at the other side. So, with the open room, that makes that process really, really easy. If it was closed rooms, again, it adds a level of complexity to that. So I love that about it.
I've been thinking about this. I love it too. I've been thinking about this. I'm not sure if this is a pro or a con, but there tends to be this, and I remember early in practice, when during some of the dead times that still happen in practice, when somebody comes in and they're like, "Oh, practice is really empty." Have you ever had that comment when somebody's like, "Oh, where is everybody?" I'm like, well, if you would have showed up on, if you would have showed up on time, in my mind, I'm like, there wouldn't be 100 people here.
Yeah.
But it creates that gap, right? And that knowledge and maybe that uncertainty in the patient being like, well, if this gal is as awesome as she says she is, where the hell are all the people?
Yeah, and obviously if you have a closed room, they're not really going to be privy to how many people are there in your practice and, could be busy. So, of course, we have our go-to statements. Whoa, you just missed the big rush. It was really busy about 10 minutes ago. Actually, you came at a lull. There's a ton of people going to be here in about 15 minutes. Hey, you came at the perfect time today. We've got a bit of a break. So, again, all the natural segues that we would have, and our team is trained to make sure that they're always communicating that, hey, we're busy. And I remember this, even way back when we weren't busy, you just missed them. Missed two. You missed those other two people that came during this shift. But again, communicating to them that it was busy, that they came at the perfect time and they missed the big rush. So that could be a potential negative. But I think when you talk about things like the environment, the flow, the conversation, communication, the time saving, I like it. If I had an existing closed room, would I be jumping to say maybe change it and make big investments to knock down walls? I don't know. I don't know that I would go ahead and just do that right away. I think I'd give it some time and some thought because it is, I don't want to say it's an all-in thing, but if you're knocking down walls and you're investing money to reconfigure your office, I think it's worth the time to figure out if you actually want to go with the open concept for the reasons we talked about today versus the tactics and get busy quick schemes that you think you're going to be able to implement as a chiropractor. Make sure it's right for you.
Yeah, I think that's the only time that I would do it immediately. Like if I just figured something out that was tearing me up inside, and this was the one thing that I needed to do so I could feel like I was being me, then I wouldn't hesitate. It would happen right away. But if it was on the fence, then I don't know, man. I'd think about it.
Yeah, and if you're going to do it, it's really easy. Then you just plan it out, plan a time, tell people that it's happening, and then you do it. It's like anything else in your practice.
You tell people that's happening. Here's the tricky part, and the part where communication really comes in. You have to frame this in a way that is beneficial for the person.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point. So what would you do? What would you say, Horatio? What would be some of the benefits that you would mention to people?
I would, again, I haven't thought this through because it's always been open. So as I'm continuing to talk to stall, I can continue to think about my answer. I would probably say that I would say something along the lines of wait times. And the current way that we're doing things right now, Jamie, you know, you're waiting too much longer. We know that you're really busy. So this new system is going to help us just get you in and out, get your appointments done quicker, and on your way a little bit faster.
You could add in while maintaining a large amount of privacy, because it'll be a wall that's up, or however you have yours set up. I know yours is a little more open than mine is. We have the wall, as I'm thinking about Game of Thrones trailers starting to come out, which I don't know if you've seen any of those, but they've come out now. Yeah, so go ahead and check those out. Yeah, exactly. Something to get super stoked about. So we have the wall in the middle of our office. It's right about, I think it's 5 feet something, so I can see over it. But if people are sitting, they can't see over it. So again, for us, the communication would have been, you know, speeding up their appointment times, waiting less while still keeping a large amount of their privacy, the ability to answer questions. So someone else might have a question that you could get value from. This way I can answer it for you, and then other people would hear that and vice versa. Right. So those would be the things that I would focus people on. Right. I would very much downplay it. Like anything that you want to make a transition to that potentially could have people upset or disqualify them, the general strategy is to downplay it, right? It's to use, so where we typically wouldn't want people using minimizing language, this is exactly where you want to be minimizing your language. It's no big deal. It's going to be a small change, right? Those are the types of words that you're going to want to use. So people are already pre-framed in their mind that it's no big deal. The more energy you bring around this idea, the more you elevate it and make it a huge deal, the bigger it's going to be an issue. It's not something I think that you want to use as a marketing piece. You know, hey, we're making this big change. It's going to be so great. It's not something you flip and promote. It's more something you just want to get done and get past it. And so this is where you would use your minimizing language and conversation while still framing it up as a benefit to them.
People are going to, and I mean, people will leave, right? Like, it's not like they're going to leave because of this, but this is going to give the people who are on the fence already, you know, the logical reason for them to exit your practice.
Right. So it goes back to making sure that this is the right action step for you, that you're comfortable with it. Because if people do leave and that is their prerogative, their choice, then you would need to be okay with that. And although I think in many cases you'd be surprised how few people, if anybody, left. You may get some situations depending on your practice, which, you know, I don't know, or we don't know the inner workings of your practice. You may get more people leave. If you're going to make this change, obviously it's because you think it's going to make your practice better in some way or make you better within that practice. Then just do it and be okay with the people who leave. People 100%. Leaving your practice is probably a whole 100%. Podcast, actually, great show.
I think it's one that we should do. I think there's like this, this idea that nobody leaves. Like, you know, chiropractic is the one, or quote, successful chiropractors are like the one business anomaly where no clients ever stop coming or paying, which I think is completely ridiculous.
Okay, well, I'm adding that to the list right now, guys. So if you're listening, and we'll get to that podcast in a couple of weeks, but I do think that's a great topic. I know once upon a time, as we'll call it.
I thought nobody left. I thought nobody left to go practice, man.
I actually believed 1,000%, fully certain that when I opened the doors to my first practice ever, that it was going to be perfect. And if I just explained what we did, it would be so logical that nobody would ever leave. I fully believe that, and it just goes perfectly in line with my naive nature anyway. But there's a benefit and bonus to that. Of course, I was completely devastated when people left, and it took a while to get over that. So that's getting into that podcast. Let's not go down that road. I think that's just sweetening the pot here for everybody listening in. You can check that one out in a few weeks. Guys, go to the show notes to see anything we've talked about today. Life by Design for Chiropractors.com/podcast. Check it out, and thank you for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.